I never thought I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm treading water in a storm, just barely keeping my head above the surface, but still drowning. It's a weird mix of frustration and exhaustion that gnaws at me every single day. The kind of tired that no amount of sleep can fix. It's not just about being broke, or even feeling broke. It's about being stuck in a system that's slowly squeezing the life out of my dreams, and maybe me, too. When I graduated college, I was full of hope. I had plans, big plans. I wanted to travel, learn new skills, maybe start a business one day. I imagined what my life would be like in 5 years, owning a small apartment, having some savings, maybe even a pet. But the world I stepped into wasn't the one I expected. The cost of living seemed to spiral upward while my paycheck barely moved. Rent went up again last month, and it's not like I'm living in some fancy place, just a tiny, cramped apartment that I'm grateful to call mine. But the bills don't care about gratitude. Every morning, I wake up with this low, heavy feeling in my chest. I check my bank account, knowing there won't be much to smile about. I make a mental list of what I have to pay this month: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and it's like the list is endless. There's never enough left for anything else, not even a night out with friends or a simple treat for myself. I used to think budgeting was just about discipline, but now I see it's more like a battle to make the impossible possible. I've become an expert in cutting corners. I buy whatever's on sale, even if it's not exactly what I want. I take public transportation instead of cabs. I cook at home almost every night, even when I'm too tired, just to avoid the extra expense of eating out. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too hard on myself, but then I remember there's no safety net here, no family money to fall back on, no secret stash of cash. Just me, my job, and this relentless grind. At work, I do my best to push through, but the stress is like a constant companion. I worry about getting sick because a day off means lost wages. I can't afford to buy better clothes or save for professional development courses that could help me get ahead. Promotions seem reserved for those who can network outside of work, or who don't have to worry about missing a paycheck to pursue them. The truth is, sometimes I feel invisible, like my efforts are swallowed up by the system, and no one sees the full weight I carry. The emotional toll is heavier than I expected. There's this shame, this quiet embarrassment that I can't keep up, that I'm failing at something that feels like survival. I hide it well, smile when I have to, but inside, there's a storm of anxiety. Every unexpected bill or car repair feels like a punch to the gut. I lie awake at night thinking about what would happen if I lost my job or had a medical emergency. I feel like I'm living on the edge of a cliff, and one wrong step could send me tumbling down. It's hard not to compare myself to friends who seem to have it all figured out, buying homes, traveling, starting families. I try not to let jealousy creep in, but sometimes it's unavoidable. I scroll through social media, see pictures of people living the lives I once dreamed of, and feel this crushing distance between where I am and where I want to be. It's like everyone else is moving forward while I'm stuck in place, battling the rising tide of inflation, rent hikes, and stagnant wages. Some days, I feel like giving up on my dreams entirely. What's the point in chasing things that feel so far out of reach? But then I remind myself why those dreams matter. They are a promise to myself, a light to hold on to amid all this uncertainty. I want to believe there's a way out, that if I work hard and stay persistent, things will change. But the truth is, it's hard to stay hopeful when the system feels rigged against you. I've learned to find small pockets of joy where I can. A good book, a walk in the park, a call with a friend who understands without judgment. These moments are like lifeboats, keeping me afloat. I also try to take care of my mental health, even if it means just breathing deeply or journaling when the anxiety hits hard. Sometimes I catch myself dreaming about a different future, one where I don't have to count every penny, where I can afford to breathe freely without the constant weight of financial pressure. But right now, those dreams feel postponed, like a deferred promise I hope to redeem someday. Maybe I'll have to be patient, or maybe I'll have to find creative ways to break free. Either way, I refuse to let this pressure define me. I am more than my bank balance or my bills. I am a person with hopes, fears, and the stubborn will to keep going, even when the system tries to wear me down. So I'll keep waking up, keep pushing through, keep dreaming, even if it's just quietly, in the spaces between the stress and the struggle. Because giving up isn't an option. Not yet. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. It's like waking up every day with a weight on my chest, a quiet dread that's hard to shake no matter how much coffee I drink or how tightly I plan my schedule. I'm 27 now, and I've been juggling this invisible, exhausting battle with money since I left college. But it feels like I've never really caught up, like I'm stuck running a race that keeps getting longer and steeper while everyone else around me is sprinting ahead. I still remember those first months after graduation, thinking, okay, now I'm out of school, I can breathe, I can build a life. The optimism felt almost naive in hindsight, but at the time, it was all I had. I got a job, not a dream job, but one that paid the bills. Or so I thought. Rent was manageable, groceries fit into my budget, and I was just starting to think about maybe, someday, saving for a car or even a trip somewhere. That someday was hazy and distant, but it was a dream, and dreams kept me afloat. Then things shifted. Inflation started creeping up, rents rose like crazy in my city, utilities and gas prices kept climbing, and my paycheck stayed stubbornly the same. Every month I crossed my fingers, hoping the numbers would add up, only to find myself cutting back on things I didn't want to, cutting out social outings, buying cheaper food, postponing doctor visits. The cost of living was a tide pulling me under, and I was trying not to drown. The strangest part is how it feels like I'm trapped inside a system designed to keep me there. My job, which once seemed like a stepping stone, feels more like a cage. I work long hours, sometimes weekends, but the extra effort never quite translates into enough income to meet the rising expenses. Every time I think I might be able to save a little, a surprise expense hits, a car repair, an emergency dental visit, or a friend's birthday I can't skip. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I move, the finish line keeps retreating. I catch myself watching other people, friends or colleagues, seemingly breezing through life milestones, buying homes, traveling, investing in their futures, while I'm stuck navigating the maze of unpaid bills and minimum payments. It's hard not to feel like I'm falling behind, not just financially but personally. The frustration sometimes bubbles into shame. I try to remind myself that money doesn't measure my worth, but the pressure is relentless. When your income barely covers necessities, you can't help but feel invisible and small in a world that screams about success and abundance. My mental health suffers in ways that aren't easy to talk about. The constant anxiety about money gnaws at my confidence and clouds my thoughts. I've had nights where I lay awake wondering if I'll ever have the freedom to make choices based on joy rather than necessity. It's exhausting. The idea of financial security feels almost mythical, like a story other people get to live but not me. I've learned to hide this vulnerability, to put on a brave face when I'm out with friends or family. But inside, there's a tight knot of worry that never fully unravels. Coping isn't simple. I cling to small routines that bring some relief, a walk in the park, listening to music, or writing down my thoughts here, trying to make sense of it all. I've also started seeing a therapist, which helps me unpack the emotional toll of this ongoing stress. Sometimes, I find solace in talking to others going through similar struggles. It reminds me I'm not alone, even if it doesn't magically solve the money problems. There were dreams once, big ones. I wanted to travel the world, to see the places I read about in books. I wanted to take courses, maybe start a side project, or eventually buy a home of my own. But those dreams feel like they're on pause indefinitely. For now, they're tucked away in the back of my mind, a reminder of a different path I hoped to take but couldn't afford to. Sometimes I wonder if putting those dreams on hold is a kind of self-protection or just the reality of this economic pressure grinding me down. And yet, despite it all, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, that the economy will shift, my career will grow, and maybe someday the gap between my expenses and income will narrow. I try to focus on small wins, paying off a credit card, finally saving a little emergency fund, or learning a new skill that might open doors. It's not much, but it's something. This story isn't about giving up. It's about being honest with the way financial pressure shapes your life in ways people often don't see. It's about the quiet desperation, the compromises, and the hope that keeps flickering even when it feels like everything is against you. If you're reading this and feeling the same squeeze, I want you to know you're not alone. This system isn't fair, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. But holding on to hope, even if it's small, is what keeps me moving forward, one tough day at a time. A young adult trying to find balance in a world that demands more than I have to give. I never thought I'd find myself stuck in this loop, a cycle where I work harder, but somehow I'm always falling behind. It's like the ground beneath me keeps shifting, no matter how fast I run or how carefully I budget. At 26, I should be building my future, not just scraping by and trying to make sense of how the cost of everything keeps climbing while my paycheck stays pretty much the same. Every morning, I wake up to a familiar, heavy feeling in my chest. It's not quite anxiety, not exactly dread, it's a mix of exhaustion and a low-level panic that I can't shake off. I've been living with this constant pressure for years now, but it only seems to get worse. Rent went up again last month. Groceries cost more. Gas, utilities, even my phone bill, all inching upward like a tide that never stops rising. Meanwhile, my job hasn't given me a raise that comes close to keeping pace. Sometimes I wonder if anyone outside of my circle even notices, or if this is just how life is now. The worst part is feeling trapped. I'm caught in this system that doesn't seem designed for someone like me. I see the headlines, inflation rising, interest rates climbing, recession whispers. And I know these things aren't just abstract numbers, they are the walls closing in on my daily life. They dictate my choices, sometimes without me even realizing it until I'm faced with the consequences. For example, take grocery shopping. It used to be that I could grab some fresh vegetables, maybe a piece of chicken, and feel like I was eating well. Now, I scan the shelves and reach for canned beans, bulk rice, anything on sale. Sometimes I skip meals or eat less because I need to save money, but I hate admitting that. It's hard to focus at work when your stomach is growling, and it chips away at my self-respect. I've learned to get creative to make every penny count. I meal prep every Sunday, using ingredients that stretch across several meals. I compare prices obsessively, clip coupons, and hunt for discounts like a game. But no matter what, it never feels like enough. The harder I try to control things, the more I realize how many of the costs are just out of my hands, from rent hikes that I can't negotiate to medical bills that come unexpectedly. Bills aren't just numbers on a page. They are mountains I climb every month, one painful step at a time. I have to prioritize rent and utilities, then food, then transportation. Sometimes I'm forced to skip or delay payments on credit cards or other expenses. The phone calls from collections agencies are the worst, a reminder that even though I'm working full-time, I'm still behind. Financial pressure doesn't just affect what I buy or how I spend, it infiltrates my relationships, my mental health, and my sense of self. I avoid inviting friends over because my apartment is too small and I don't want them to see how little I have. I say no to social events because I can't afford the ticket or the cost of going out. There's a loneliness in that, like I'm slowly isolating myself, even though I crave connection. At night, when the apartment is quiet and the distractions are gone, the weight of all this settles on me. Sometimes I lie awake, thinking about how different life could be if I didn't have this financial strain hanging over me. I think about the dreams I once had, traveling, buying a car, going back to school, and how they've been pushed further and further into the future, maybe indefinitely. It's hard not to feel defeated. But I try to hold on to hope, fragile as it is. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I look for small wins, a day I manage to save a bit more, a moment when a friend checks in, a compliment from a coworker that makes me feel seen. I've started setting tiny goals, like building an emergency fund, no matter how slowly. It helps to have a plan, even if it feels out of reach. Sometimes I get angry, at the system, at the economy, at the invisible forces that make everything more expensive while wages stay stuck. But mostly, I'm just tired. Tired of having to think twice about everything, tired of feeling like I'm running in place while the world moves forward. The unfairness stings because I'm working hard, but it's never quite enough. I'm trying to find moments of grace in this struggle. I've learned to appreciate small pleasures, a good cup of coffee, a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend. These moments remind me that there's still joy to be found, even in hard times. I'm holding on to the idea that one day, with patience and persistence, I'll break free from this financial squeeze. I'll live in a place where I don't have to count every cent, where I can dream freely again without fear. For now, though, I keep going, one paycheck at a time, one day at a time, hoping that someday the weight will lift and I'll look back on this time as a chapter, not my whole story. It's hard, but it's my reality. And I'm learning to live with it, honestly and vulnerably, hoping that honesty itself can be a kind of freedom. I never thought money would feel like a cage until I was already inside it, barely able to breathe. Every month, it's the same rhythm, paycheck hits the account, then it's gone faster than I can blink. Rent, utilities, groceries, transport, student loans, everything seems to grow in cost while my salary barely moves. Sometimes I wonder if I'm running on a treadmill set to an impossible speed, one that keeps accelerating no matter how hard I push. I'm 27 now, and for the last few years, I've been living with this constant undercurrent of anxiety that never fully goes away. I work a job I'm grateful to have, but it's not one that pays enough to make me feel secure. Every purchase is calculated, every expense debated in my head like a court trial. Do I really need that coffee today, or can I survive on the cheap instant stuff I have at home? Can I skip a meal and eat a little less tonight? Should I take the bus even if it means getting to work 30 minutes earlier, or is the convenience of a rideshare worth the extra cost? It feels like the economic environment around me is designed to squeeze every last cent out of people like me. Inflation pushes prices up, and while everyone talks about it on the news, it feels distant and abstract until you're the one facing an extra $100 on your grocery bill or a rent increase you didn't expect. The rising costs hit like a slow punch to the gut, wearing me down over time. My emotional well-being takes a real hit from this. Some days, the stress feels like a heavy blanket I can't throw off. It seeps into everything, my sleep, my mood, even my relationships. I try to put on a brave face for friends and family, but inside, there's a quiet fear that I'm falling behind in life. Sometimes I catch myself scrolling through social media, seeing people my age buying homes, traveling, or launching businesses, and it feels like a cruel reminder of the things I had dreamed about but had to put on hold. I once thought I'd save enough to start my own business someday. I had a plan, a vision for a creative studio where I could bring together people like me, passionate, talented, but financially struggling. But with every paycheck that barely covers basics, that dream is pushed further into the background. Instead of investing in my future, I'm just trying to keep the lights on. Coping isn't easy. I've learned to be frugal to the point of obsession. Coupons, sales, secondhand stores, these aren't just options, they're necessities. I've become an expert at stretching meals, cooking in bulk, and finding free or low-cost entertainment. But the mental toll is exhausting. There's a shame that comes with living paycheck to paycheck, like I'm failing some unspoken test of adulthood. I talk about my situation with a few close friends, but even then, it feels like I'm carrying a secret burden. People don't always understand how relentless this pressure is, how it seeps into your identity. You start to question your own worth when the system feels rigged against you. Why am I working so hard and still barely scraping by? What am I missing that others have? Sometimes, I feel trapped in a cycle that's impossible to break. Expenses rise, my income doesn't keep up, debt grows, and I shrink back into a smaller version of myself, more cautious, more afraid to dream. It's a slow erosion of hope. But in quieter moments, I remind myself that this isn't permanent. I hold on to the small victories, a month without overdrafts, paying off a credit card bit by bit, even finding a moment of peace in a walk outside. My hope for the future is simple but powerful. I want financial breathing room, just enough to stop feeling like I'm drowning. I want to build a life where I don't have to choose between essentials and dreams. Maybe someday, I'll start that business, maybe I'll travel, maybe I'll even buy a small place to call my own. But for now, I keep moving forward, learning to live with the pressure without letting it break me completely. This story isn't unique, I know that. There are millions of people like me, caught in the tightening grip of economic forces bigger than any one person. But if I'm honest, I'm scared of what happens if this keeps up much longer. How much of my spirit will I lose before the system changes? And that fear is what drives me to keep fighting, to keep hoping, even when the odds seem stacked against me. Some days, I feel like I'm just treading water, and no matter how hard I kick, the shore keeps drifting farther away. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, one that seeps into your bones and makes every little decision feel like a mountain. I'm 27, working full-time, and yet somehow, the weight of money never lifts. The economic environment these days, it's like an invisible storm that never clears. It changes everything, but mostly in ways that make me feel small and stuck. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college. I had hope. Maybe naive, but real. I thought if I worked hard and kept my head down, I'd slowly build something, stability, a little savings, maybe a chance to breathe easy. But now, 5 years later, it feels like I'm on a treadmill that's speeding up every few months. Rent jumps, groceries cost more, the car needs repairs I can barely afford, and utilities bills climb just as fast as my anxiety. Meanwhile, my paycheck? It's crawling. A tiny, infrequent raise here and there, never enough to keep pace. I'm stuck watching the gap widen, the invisible line between getting by and falling behind stretching farther. Every morning, the first thought is money. It's almost involuntary now. Will I have enough to cover rent? Can I swing the credit card bill this month without it becoming a mountain? Do I cut back on eating out, or skip the little things that keep me sane, like a coffee with a friend or a streaming subscription? Even deciding what to eat feels strategic, buying rice and beans in bulk because they're cheaper, avoiding fresh produce when it's too pricey, making meals stretch longer than they should. I remember a conversation with a friend, where she casually mentioned going to brunch last weekend. It felt like a different world. I couldn't imagine spending money on that, not right now. The financial pressure is relentless. It's a constant low hum in the back of my mind, but sometimes it swells into a roar. There are nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, running numbers in my head, trying to figure out how I'll make it through the month without dipping further into debt. The more I think, the more my chest tightens, and I start doubting everything, my job, my choices, even my worth. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing somehow, even though I know logically it's the system that's broken. The emotional toll is real. It's lonely, too. Friends get engaged, buy homes, start families, and I'm still trying to save a few $100s just to replace my old laptop. I scroll through social media and see snapshots of people's successes, their travels and celebrations, and it stings. Not because I'm jealous, exactly, but because I want that, too. I want to feel free, not trapped by my bank account. It's hard to talk about this openly. There's a shame tied to money struggles, like admitting it means you're somehow less capable. I bottle it up, but inside, it simmers. I cope the best I can. I remind myself to be grateful for the small wins, a paid bill, a day without a panic attack, a meal cooked at home that tastes good. I try to stretch my resources creatively, picking up side gigs when I can, though they're exhausting and often pay poorly. I lean on the rare, genuine friendships that don't judge or pity but just listen. Sometimes I allow myself to dream again, even if it's just a whisper, a trip abroad someday, a cozy apartment with a balcony, a chance to stop worrying so much. But those dreams feel farther now, like stars I can see but can't reach. Buying a home? That's a fantasy. Saving for retirement? A joke. Even going back to school feels impossible without piling on more debt. It's frustrating, heartbreaking, but I hold on to a stubborn hope that somehow, things will shift. That maybe, one day, the economy will stop punishing people like me, young adults hustling hard but always falling behind. For now, I keep going. I remind myself that I'm not alone, even if it often feels that way. I try to be gentle with myself on the hard days and celebrate the little victories. The system may feel rigged, but my spirit isn't broken yet. One step, one paycheck, one small choice at a time. Maybe that's enough for now. This is my reality, a constant balancing act, a test of endurance, a quiet fight for dignity in a world that makes it so hard. And I'm still here, tired, worried, but hopeful. Some days, I wake up feeling like I'm already sinking, before I even step out of bed. It's this constant pressure, this invisible weight, that never quite lets up. I'm 26, working a decent job, or at least I thought it was decent when I started 2 years ago. But the truth is, no matter how hard I work or how many extra shifts I pick up, it feels like the ground beneath me is shifting too fast to keep up. Every month, expenses creep higher: rent, groceries, utilities, gas, everything just edges up like it knows I can't say no. Meanwhile, my paycheck? It feels frozen in time, stuck in this endless loop of just barely covering what I owe, with nothing left to save, nothing left to breathe. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of hope and excitement. The city was buzzing, opportunities seemed endless, and I believed I could build something stable, even good, here. But somewhere between the second rent increase and my car breaking down, that hope started to fracture. It's not like I wasn't trying, working nights, cutting back on dinners out, skipping the little things that used to bring joy. But even those sacrifices barely made a dent. I stopped buying new clothes unless I had to. I gave up the gym membership months ago, and I've gotten used to the cold when I have to turn the heat off to save a few bucks. The hardest part isn't the numbers on the bank app or the receipts piling up, it's the way it makes me feel. Like I'm trapped. Like the system is designed to keep me on this hamster wheel, running faster but going nowhere. My income doesn't stretch the way prices do. I can't remember the last time I felt in control of my own life, because it's always reacting to bills, reacting to emergencies, reacting to the unpredictability of it all. It's exhausting. I catch myself scrolling through social media, watching friends post about vacations, new cars, even just simple dinners out with friends I don't get to see anymore. There's this pang, a sharp mix of jealousy, frustration, and sadness. Not because I want those things badly or because I think they define success, but because they symbolize a freedom I feel slipping farther away every day. The freedom to choose, to live without calculating every cent, to dream beyond just surviving. I used to dream big. I wanted to travel, to go back to school, maybe start a small business someday. I thought I'd have a house of my own by now. But those dreams have been postponed indefinitely, like they're waiting in some distant future that feels less and less reachable. The more immediate need to keep a roof over my head and food on the table crowds out everything else. There are days I feel embarrassed to talk about money with anyone, like it's a personal failure, or worse, a sign I'm not making it. But the truth is, I'm doing all I can. Sometimes I break down quietly, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it all. How the cost of living keeps rising but wages don't, how medical bills or car repairs can wipe out weeks of hard-earned savings, how it feels impossible to plan ahead when every day demands focus just to keep the lights on. Still, I keep going. I've found small ways to cope, moments of gratitude, like a friend sharing a meal, or a walk in the park that costs nothing but helps reset my mind. I've learned to be resourceful, hunting sales, swapping clothes with friends, even growing a few herbs in the windowsill to save on groceries. These little acts feel like quiet rebellions against the system, small claims to dignity in a world that often feels indifferent. And sometimes, when the nights are quiet and the weight feels a little lighter, I remind myself that this isn't forever. I hold on to the hope that someday, I'll find a way out, not just of debt or financial pressure, but of this feeling of being trapped. That maybe one day I'll wake up and the numbers will add up differently, and I'll have the freedom to chase those postponed dreams again. For now, though, it's about surviving one day at a time, finding moments of peace in the chaos, and believing, somehow, that better days are ahead. Because even when it feels impossible, hope is all I've got left. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm caught in quicksand, sinking deeper no matter how hard I struggle to climb out. But here I am, 27 years old, juggling bills, rent, groceries, and that endless loop of how am I going to make it this month? It's a relentless cycle that's worn me down more than I ever expected. The economic pressure isn't just about numbers on a screen, it's a weight on my chest, a constant hum of anxiety buzzing just below my thoughts. When I was younger, I imagined adulthood would be different. I pictured a life where I could breathe, plan, maybe save up for a small apartment or that trip abroad I've always dreamed of. Instead, it feels like I'm stuck in a system where expenses rise faster than I can catch up. Every paycheck barely stretches, shrinking more every month as rent creeps up, groceries cost more, and the smallest emergency, like a broken phone screen or a medical copay, throws everything off balance. I work 2 jobs right now, a full-time office gig and a part-time weekend shift at a cafe. Neither pays particularly well, but they're what keep the lights on and food on the table. Still, the stress of trying to make ends meet bleeds into every corner of my life. I've become hyper-aware of every dollar I spend, calculating, rationing, second-guessing. I clip coupons, shop at discount stores, skip social outings, and say no to things that used to bring me joy. Even simple pleasures like grabbing a coffee with a friend feel like a luxury. Some days, I lie awake at night wondering how this got so hard. I watch the news and see the headlines about inflation, stagnant wages, and a widening gap between the wealthy and everyone else. It feels like the rules of the game were rewritten without my knowledge, and I'm left scrambling to keep up. My income hasn't changed much in the last few years, but prices for rent and basic necessities have soared. I'm working harder, but the payoff feels smaller and smaller. It's frustrating and heartbreaking in equal measure. This financial squeeze doesn't just affect what I buy, it reshapes my entire mindset. I've stopped dreaming as freely as I used to. I had plans to go back to school, to invest in a small business idea I've nurtured for years, to maybe move somewhere with a better job market. But those plans are shelved indefinitely because every spare cent has to go toward immediate survival. It feels like postponing my future, like I'm living on hold, just hoping to catch a break that might never come. Emotionally, this pressure takes a toll I can't fully put into words. There's a persistent feeling of vulnerability, like I'm always one step away from a crisis. It's exhausting to live with that low-grade fear. Sometimes I feel ashamed, even though I know it's not my fault. Society loves to blame people for poor money management or lack of ambition, but the reality is so much more complicated. I'm working hard. I'm responsible. Yet the system feels rigged to keep people like me in this trap. Coping is a daily challenge. I've leaned heavily on routines, meal prepping, budgeting apps, setting small financial goals, to maintain some control. Talking openly with friends who understand this struggle helps too, even if it's just to vent or exchange tips on saving money. I've also found some solace in small creative outlets like journaling or painting, moments where my mind can escape the grind. But there's always an undercurrent of worry. Sometimes, when I allow myself to be honest, I feel overwhelmed by grief for the life I imagined but can't quite reach yet. The freedom to explore, the security of savings, the chance to say yes to opportunities without hesitation, all feel so distant. I wonder if I'll ever break free from this cycle or if I'm destined to keep living paycheck to paycheck. Still, despite it all, there's a quiet hope that keeps me going. Hope that one day, the economy might shift, or I might find a better job, or that some unexpected opportunity will open a door. Hope that I'll build enough stability to reclaim those postponed dreams. It's not a grand, shining hope, more like a fragile ember I protect carefully. This story isn't unique, though sometimes it feels isolating. Many of my peers are fighting similar battles, navigating a world where the cost of living seems to outpace our ability to earn. And that shared experience, while difficult, reminds me I'm not alone. It fuels a determination to keep pushing, to find ways to adapt without losing sight of what I truly want from life. Financial pressure is a thief. It steals time, peace, and sometimes even hope. But it doesn't have to define me. One day, I'll tell a different story, one where I'm no longer sinking but standing on solid ground. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, even if it's just one careful step at a time. It's late again, and here I am, sitting at the kitchen table with a lukewarm cup of coffee that I made 2 hours ago. I should have just thrown it out, but I can't bring myself to waste anything, not when every cent counts. The bills are stacked on one side, glaring at me like an unrelenting judge. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loan payments, the occasional unexpected expense. They all add up faster than I can earn, and the gap between my paycheck and my needs feels like a widening canyon I'm never going to cross. I'm 27 years old, and honestly, some days it feels like I'm just surviving rather than living. The pressure of the economy, rent hikes that outpace my raise, groceries that cost more every month, car repairs that never seem to come at a convenient time, has reshaped everything about how I live and think. Every decision is filtered through a harsh, unforgiving lens of affordability. Do I really need to buy that new pair of shoes? Can I skip my favorite streaming service this month? Should I take the bus instead of Uber, even if it means waking up an hour earlier? It's exhausting, mentally and physically. There's a constant knot of anxiety in my chest, a creeping worry that no matter how hard I work, I'll never get ahead. I keep telling myself, just a little longer. Things will get better. But every month it feels like I'm treading water harder than before, and still sinking. I remember when I first got my job out of college. Back then, I was hopeful. Maybe naive, but hopeful. I believed that with hard work, discipline, and a bit of luck, I'd be able to build a stable life, maybe even buy a home one day, travel a little, save for a family. But reality hit fast. My starting salary barely covered rent and bills, and with inflation pushing prices up, I saw my disposable income shrink until it was almost non-existent. One of the hardest parts is the feeling of being trapped in a system that doesn't seem designed for people like me. The costs keep rising, groceries, rent, gas, healthcare, but my income grows inch by inch, if at all. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and I'm getting more tired but going nowhere. The dreams I had to postpone, traveling to Europe, saving for a down payment, even things as simple as upgrading my old laptop or getting a reliable car, feel like distant memories from another life. On the surface, I try to keep it together. I smile at coworkers, nod politely when friends ask how I'm doing, even laugh at the right moments. But inside, there's a persistent ache. I worry about what the future holds, about being able to retire someday, about the kind of life I'll be able to provide for myself and maybe a family someday. Coping with this pressure isn't easy. Some days, I throw myself into work, burying the stress under tasks and emails. Other times, I try to distract myself with cheap pleasures, a walk in the park, a library book, a movie night at home. I've learned to live on a tight budget, cooking at home instead of eating out, using coupons, hunting for sales, and putting off doctor visits unless absolutely necessary. It's a constant balancing act between needs and wants, between surviving today and saving for tomorrow. Sometimes, the emotional toll sneaks up on me in the quiet moments. I feel lonely, overwhelmed, frustrated. There's a deep sadness in realizing that financial pressure doesn't just affect my bank account, but also my self-esteem, my relationships, and my mental health. It makes me question my worth and my place in the world. Yet, despite all this, there's a flicker of hope I cling to. I remind myself that this isn't forever. Maybe someday I'll find a better job, or a side hustle that pays off, or a chance to move somewhere with a lower cost of living. I dream of a time when money isn't a constant worry, when I can afford to invest in myself and my happiness, when I can stop feeling like I'm always behind. Until then, I keep pushing forward, paycheck to paycheck, decision to decision. I hold on to the small victories, making it through the month without overdrawing my account, finding a discount on something I need, reconnecting with a friend despite the stress. These moments remind me that even in the grip of financial strain, life still holds value and possibility. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to acknowledge the struggle without letting it define me completely. Because at the end of the day, I'm more than my bank balance. I'm someone trying to navigate a complicated, unforgiving world with resilience, hope, and a quiet determination to keep going, even when it feels like the system is stacked against me. That's my reality, messy, hard, and full of uncertainty. But it's mine, and I'm doing my best to live it, one day at a time. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd find myself here, staring at my bank account on a Friday night and feeling a kind of helplessness I didn't even know existed. It's a strange, crushing thing to watch your expenses grow faster than your income, day after day, month after month, and to know you're caught in a system designed to keep you just barely afloat, or worse, sinking. I'm 27, working a decent job that should be enough, and yet I'm constantly juggling bills, wondering if I'll be able to afford groceries this week, or if I need to skip the doctor's appointment because the deductible is a luxury I can't afford right now. I want to tell you about the small moments, the little decisions that pile up and shape my reality, but also about how this pressure weighs on my mind, my heart, my future. It starts every morning with the same routine. Wake up early, skip the fancy coffee I used to love, because $$ for a cup feels like an unnecessary extravagance when you're counting every penny. I make my own instant coffee in the tiny kitchenette of my rented room. It's not terrible, but it's not the warm, comforting ritual I once imagined my mornings would be. I scroll through social media while I sip, and there it is, pictures of friends traveling, starting businesses, buying homes. I want to be happy for them, but the ache of comparison hits harder these days. It's like looking through a window at a life I'm no longer sure I'll ever have. At work, I clock in the hours and do my best to keep up. The pay is steady but barely rising. Inflation eats away at every raise I get, making it feel like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Rent has increased twice since I moved into this tiny apartment, one that barely fits my bed and a second-hand dresser. Utilities climb as the seasons change, and sometimes I have to decide whether to turn on the heat or the lights. Those choices feel so small but add up to this huge mental toll. I'm constantly calculating, recalculating, budgeting like my life depends on it because, honestly, it does. Food is another battleground. I used to love cooking, trying new recipes, baking treats for friends, but now, my grocery list is a carefully curated map of the cheapest ingredients. Fresh produce? Only when I find a good deal or it's on sale. Meat? Occasionally, and only the cheapest cuts. Sometimes I skip meals, not because I'm starving, but because the $3 I'd spend on a sandwich could cover part of a bill. I hate admitting that, but it's true. It feels like I'm always putting my basic needs on hold to pay for things I don't want to think about: insurance, internet, student loans. Those loans, especially, they hang over me like a dark cloud, a reminder of past hopes that now feel distant. Social life? Forget about it. Invitations to dinners, concerts, trips, they come with a cost I can't justify. I say no more than yes, and slowly, I've become the person who declines invites because she has to save. It's lonely sometimes. I miss the spontaneity, the joy of sharing moments without thinking about the price tag attached. Even when I do meet friends, I often avoid places that cost too much or order the cheapest thing on the menu. I hate that I've become this cautious, guarded version of myself. It's like I'm shrinking, retreating from the world instead of expanding into it. The emotional weight is harder to describe but more profound. There's this constant undercurrent of anxiety, an unshakable feeling that I'm just one emergency away from disaster. A car breakdown, a sudden medical bill, a job loss, any of these could unravel everything. I lie awake some nights, heart pounding, thinking about what would happen if the paycheck stopped. Where would I go? Who could help me? These are not questions a young adult should be wrestling with, but here I am. Hope isn't gone, but it's been tempered by reality. I still dream, of course. I dream of a home I can call my own, of travels to places I've only seen in pictures, of a career where I'm valued and fairly compensated. I want to save, invest, build something lasting. But those dreams have been pushed back, indefinitely postponed because right now, survival takes all my energy. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, I think about the unfairness of it all. How can expenses keep rising with no end in sight, while wages barely budge? How is it that so many of us are trapped in this endless cycle, working harder but falling behind? I feel frustrated, angry, and exhausted all at once. But I'm also learning small acts of resilience. I've started connecting with community groups for financial advice and mental health support. I'm trying to find pockets of joy where I can, reading, walking in the park, journaling. These moments remind me I'm still more than my bank balance. I hope that by sharing this, someone out there knows they're not alone. That being financially pressured isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic problem many of us are fighting every day. And maybe, one day, I'll look back and see this period as the moment I held on tight and kept dreaming, even when the world told me not to. For now, I keep going. Because what else can I do? It's hard to describe exactly what it feels like to live every day knowing you're stuck in this endless cycle where money slips through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to hold on. I'm 27, and I thought by now things would be different. That somehow the hard work, the hustle, the constant juggling act would start to pay off. But here I am, still waiting for that break, still trying to stretch every dollar like it's made of elastic, and still feeling like I'm sinking deeper under the weight of bills and expenses that just keep piling up faster than I can keep pace. The economic environment around me isn't just a backdrop, it's a relentless pressure that squeezes every part of my life. Rent goes up again, even though my paycheck barely budges. Grocery prices climb higher, making my weekly shopping trip feel like a negotiation instead of a routine. Utilities, car maintenance, medical copays, all these essentials keep getting more expensive, and I'm left cutting corners wherever I can. Sometimes that means skipping meals or buying the cheapest, most generic brand of everything. Sometimes it means saying no to social invitations because fun costs money I don't have. And every time I say no, it chips away at me a little, a quiet loneliness that I try not to dwell on. Most days, I wake up with this knot of anxiety in my chest. It's a mix of worry and exhaustion, a feeling like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while my legs get heavier. I check my bank account obsessively, even though I know it won't make the numbers change. I make mental lists of what bills need to be paid, what I can postpone, and what I have to sacrifice this month. Sometimes, I hold my breath, hoping something unexpected won't come up, because if it does, I don't know how I'd handle it. Work isn't a refuge either. I have a decent job, but it barely keeps the lights on and the fridge stocked. Overtime is sometimes an option, but it's exhausting, and the pay still feels like a drop in the ocean compared to what I owe or need. The stress follows me home, makes it hard to sleep, harder to focus. I'm constantly trying to balance the present, how to get through the next week, and the future, which feels like a far-off, hazy dream. There are moments, fleeting but powerful, when I let myself imagine a life without this financial pressure. I dream about moving somewhere affordable, about going back to school to finally finish a degree, about traveling even just a little, about saving enough to not panic when the car breaks down. But these dreams feel like distant islands on a rough sea, beautiful and hopeful, but unreachable right now. I've had to postpone plans, delay milestones that my friends are already checking off, buying a home, starting a family, even small things like buying nicer clothes or going out to eat without counting every penny. I try to cope by finding small moments of peace. Sometimes it's a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend who understands, or just turning off my phone and forgetting about money for a while. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even though it often feels like it will be. I try to hold on to the belief that persistence matters, that if I keep working, keep pushing, somehow the tide will turn. But that belief gets harder to hold on to each time a bill arrives or the car needs fixing or rent goes up again. What makes it hardest is feeling trapped, like the system isn't built for people like me. It's a system where costs spiral out of control but wages don't keep up, where every unexpected expense threatens to undo the careful balancing act I perform daily. It's a system that seems to reward risk and capital but punishes survival and stability. And I'm just trying to survive. Sometimes I feel shame about my situation. Like I should be doing something better, or that I'm not trying hard enough. But I know that's not true. I'm working as hard as I can, I'm careful with my money, and I'm not reckless. Still, the weight of financial pressure presses on my self-esteem and hope, making it harder to see a clear path forward. I want to believe that this struggle is temporary, that someday I'll look back and see this as a season I grew from, not the whole story. I want to be honest with myself about how real and raw this pressure feels, without letting it define me completely. I want to keep dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. Because deep down, I know that hope is the only thing that can keep me moving when everything else feels like it's falling apart. So I keep going. I keep balancing the numbers, stretching the dollars, cutting back where I can, and pushing myself to keep my head above water. Because even though the system is unforgiving and the future uncertain, I still want a life where I'm not just surviving, but living, truly living, on my own terms. And maybe, just maybe, that future is still waiting for me beyond this financial fog. That's what keeps me going. It's hard to put into words the exact feeling of being caught in this endless tug-of-war between what I earn and what I owe. Every month feels like a new round in a fight I'm already losing, and some days I wake up wondering if it's even worth trying to get ahead. I'm 26, working 2 jobs just to scrape by, but somehow, the bills keep piling up faster than the money hits my account. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, and no matter how fast I run, I'm not going anywhere. The cost of living is suffocating. Rent alone eats up more than half of what I bring home, and it's only gotten worse with every new lease renewal. Utilities, groceries, phone, internet, things I barely think about, they stack up and swallow what little I have left. I try to be careful, clipping coupons, cooking at home, skipping nights out, but the prices keep rising, like some cruel joke. It's not just about stretching every dollar. It's about the anxiety that creeps in when I open my bank app and see the balance that won't even cover an unexpected expense. A flat tire, a sick day, a broken phone, any of those can tip me into panic. Sometimes, I feel trapped, like I'm in this system that's designed to keep me just barely afloat, never enough to breathe easy or plan ahead. I see the headlines about inflation, wage stagnation, and housing crises, and it all feels so distant, until it hits me directly in the gut. The news tells me to budget better, but no amount of budgeting can fix an income that's stuck and expenses that keep climbing. It's demoralizing to work harder and still not move forward. Some days the weight of it all is crushing. I remember the nights when I lay awake, heart pounding, wondering how I'm going to pay next month's rent or if I should even bother applying for a course or training that could improve my career. There's this constant background noise of stress that never turns off. It gets inside your head and makes you question your worth. Why am I working so hard if it doesn't get me anywhere? Why do I have to choose between my health and my bills? But I keep going, somehow. Part of me refuses to give up. I find small ways to cope, listening to music that makes me feel less alone, talking to friends who understand the grind, taking walks just to clear my head. I write in a journal sometimes, pouring out the frustration and fear so it doesn't build up inside me. It's not a solution, but it helps me hold on to a shred of hope. Hope is a fragile thing these days. I used to dream bigger, traveling, owning a home, even just saving for a rainy day felt possible once. Now, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. I've had to put them on hold indefinitely, sacrificing pieces of what I want for what I need. It's like I'm constantly making trade-offs between surviving today and hoping for a better tomorrow. I wish people could see how exhausting it is, this daily battle with money that never seems to balance out. It's not just math, it's an emotional roller coaster. It's the shame of turning down invitations because you can't afford them. It's the loneliness of not being able to contribute when friends talk about plans or shared experiences. It's the fear of emergencies that could unravel everything you've managed to hold together. Still, I dream. I dream of a day when I can wake up without that crushing worry. When I can save for a vacation, or a down payment, or just a simple night out without counting every cent. I dream of stability, of freedom from the trap that feels like it's tightening every day. And even if that day is far away, I hold on to it, because without that hope, the weight would be unbearable. For now, I keep moving forward, one paycheck at a time, trying to find small moments of peace in the chaos. It's not easy, and some days it feels impossible, but this is my reality, and somehow, I have to believe it won't always be this way. If anyone out there feels the same, know you're not alone. We're caught in this together, navigating a system that doesn't seem built for us, but maybe, if enough of us speak out and hold on, we can find a way to change it. I never imagined I'd feel this way, so early on. Like I'm already stuck, barely moving forward, weighed down by a tide of bills and costs I can't control. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, not just physical, but mental, emotional, like I'm caught in a cycle that no matter how hard I try, I can't break free from. I'm 26 now. Just a few years out of college, trying to carve out a life that feels stable, or at least hopeful. But every month, it feels like I'm just surviving, not living. The rent goes up, the grocery bills creep higher, my phone and internet bills are constants I can't cut down on without losing contact with the world. Even the bus fare, which I thought was cheap, feels like a luxury when I look at my bank balance. And wages? They're crawling along, barely keeping pace with inflation, if at all. Some mornings, I wake up and the first thought is, how am I going to make it through this month? What will have to go? Do I skip the doctor's appointment because I can't afford the copay? Do I eat less, or buy cheaper food that makes me feel sluggish? Do I tell my friends no again when they invite me out because I know a night of fun means less money for essentials? It's humiliating sometimes, feeling like I'm constantly making these small sacrifices that no one else notices, but that slowly chip away at who I am. The pride I used to have in being independent feels fragile now, almost like a thin shell I'm trying to hold together. I remember when I was younger, I dreamed about what my life would look like once I had a steady job, a place of my own, maybe even a little savings. I imagined weekends spent traveling, evenings filled with dinners out or small gatherings with friends, spontaneous plans, and no constant worry about money. But those dreams have been postponed, indefinitely, it seems, because the reality is that every paycheck feels like it evaporates as soon as it lands. The economic environment isn't just numbers on paper or headlines on the news, it's real, it shapes every choice I make. When the gas prices jump, I limit trips to the store. When the cost of basic utilities spikes, I avoid turning on the heater even in winter. Sometimes I ration electricity by unplugging chargers or keeping the lights off in rooms I'm not using. It's not a glamorous or heroic fight, it's a quiet, daily grind just to keep the lights on and food on the table. I've gotten pretty good at budgeting, but budgeting feels like a cruel joke when the numbers don't add up. There's always something unexpected, a doctor's visit, a broken phone screen, an increase in internet fees, that sends my careful plans into chaos. And there's no safety net, no extra cushion. No family support. Just me, and this growing pile of expenses. Emotionally, it's draining. The stress gnaws at me, sometimes making it hard to sleep, other times making me feel irritable or distant from the people I care about. I catch myself smiling less or shutting down when friends talk about vacations or career opportunities that require extra spending. I try not to feel jealous, but it's hard not to when it feels like I'm chained to this constant struggle. Coping is a mix of distractions and little rituals. I listen to podcasts, read books from the library, or take walks in the park because they're free. I try to find joy in simple things, a perfect cup of coffee at home, a good movie, a call with a friend. But sometimes, it feels like these moments are just fleeting patches of light in a larger landscape of pressure. There are days I feel invisible, like the system was designed to keep people like me down, to make sure I don't get ahead. The rising cost of living with wages stuck in place feels like a trap. I wonder sometimes if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just unlucky. The hardest part is feeling like I'm working harder and harder but falling further behind. I've had to postpone a lot. The idea of buying a car, moving into a better apartment, even continuing education or professional courses, all of it feels like a distant fantasy. Even starting a family feels out of reach because how can I provide when I'm barely keeping afloat myself? But despite all this, I hold on to hope. Hope that things might change, that maybe one day the sacrifices will pay off. I remind myself that this is a season, not a sentence. I try to celebrate the small victories, a month where I managed to save a bit, a compliment from a boss, a surprise gift from a friend. These moments remind me that I'm still me, more than my bank balance, more than my debts. I want to believe that one day, I'll look back on this period as the time I grew stronger, more resilient, even if it was painful. That I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. Maybe it's unrealistic, but it's the only thing that keeps me going. For now, I take it one day at a time, navigating the tightrope between survival and hope. Because as trapped as I feel, I'm still trying. And I think that counts for something. I never thought I'd be here, feeling like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking slowly but surely, no matter how hard I struggle. I'm 26 now, and for the past few years, it's been this relentless battle against a tide I can't seem to outpace. The cost of everything keeps rising: rent, groceries, utilities, even the little things that used to be easy to afford. Meanwhile, my income feels frozen, like it's trapped in amber, barely budging. And the gap between what I earn and what I need? It's only growing wider, like a canyon I'm desperately trying to cross with broken wings. I remember when I graduated from college, full of hope and excitement. I thought, okay, this is it. I'm done with school, ready to make a life, build something for myself. I landed a decent job, not a dream job, but it paid the bills. I was proud of myself. But almost immediately, I noticed something off. The rent for my tiny one-bedroom apartment had jumped by nearly $100 in just a year. Food prices kept creeping up. My paycheck didn't stretch as far as it used to. And every time I thought I had some breathing room, an unexpected bill would appear: a car repair, a medical expense, or a friend's emergency. It feels like the system is designed to keep people like me running on a treadmill, sprinting to nowhere. I've tried budgeting, cutting back, switching to cheaper brands, skipping nights out, canceling subscriptions, and even picking up extra shifts. Nothing changes the math. It's like the expenses multiply in the shadows whenever I turn my back. The weight of it presses down on me daily. Mornings are the hardest. Waking up knowing I have to face another day of juggling costs, trying to stretch a paycheck that was never meant to cover the reality I live in, it drains me before I even leave the house. Sometimes I skip breakfast, telling myself I'll eat at work, but then I don't have the time or the energy, and I end up just drinking water until lunch. I'm not proud of this. It feels like my body is suffering just as much as my mind. I often feel guilty when I think about my friends. They talk about vacations, new gadgets, dinners out, even weekend getaways. Sometimes I force a smile and say, that sounds amazing, but inside, it stings. I want that too. I want to celebrate milestones without worrying about the price tag. I want to live spontaneously, to enjoy my 20s without constantly looking over my shoulder at my bank account. But those dreams feel so distant, like stars just out of reach. There's a quiet, gnawing loneliness in this struggle. People don't always understand when you say you can't afford something. The assumption is that maybe you just don't want to spend money or you're not managing well. But it's deeper than that. It's a systemic squeeze, a constant push that leaves no room to breathe, to grow, to thrive. I'm trapped in a loop where earning more isn't enough, because expenses rise faster. I see no clear exit. Sometimes, I catch myself dreaming of owning a small home with a garden, of saving for emergencies without stress, of traveling somewhere new just to feel free for a while. But I push these thoughts away because it hurts too much to want something I can't see becoming real. I tell myself to be practical, to focus on what I can control. And that's mostly just surviving. To cope, I try to find small moments of peace. A walk in the park, a call with a close friend, reading a book borrowed from the library, or simply lying awake at night imagining a better future. These tiny respites keep me going, like flickers of light in the dark. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels like it. I'm trying to hold on to hope, even when it feels fragile. I'm also learning to be kinder to myself. The weight of financial pressure can make you feel like you're failing, but I know deep down I'm doing my best. I'm working, saving, sacrificing, and still dreaming. That's something. It's not much, but it's real. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I think about moving back home, but that comes with its own complications. Sometimes I wonder if I should switch careers or go back to school, but that means more debt, more uncertainty. It's a constant balancing act, and I'm tired, but not defeated. What I hope most is that one day, the system shifts. That living a decent life isn't a constant struggle for people like me. That incomes and opportunities catch up to the real cost of living. Until then, I'll keep pushing forward, one paycheck, one day, one small victory at a time, holding on to the belief that my dreams, however postponed, aren't gone forever. They're just waiting for a time when I can breathe again. And maybe, someday soon, I'll get there. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm stuck, caught in a slow sinking sand of bills and deadlines, where every attempt to get ahead only pushes me deeper. Maybe that's the story for a lot of people my age, but it doesn't make it any easier to live through. It's hard to explain unless you've been there, feeling the pressure so tight it almost feels physical, like a weight sitting on your chest. I graduated college 4 years ago, full of hope and those fresh out of school dreams. I imagined I'd find a job I liked, maybe move to a city with a pulse, and start building a life I was proud of. But reality didn't care much for dreams. My first job barely paid enough to cover rent and groceries, let alone save anything. And rent wasn't cheap. My tiny studio apartment costs nearly half my paycheck every month. Utilities, internet, phone, and the small emergencies, things like replacing a busted phone screen or a car part, always creep up and swallow what little is left. The worst part is how fast everything seems to be growing, except my income. Food prices went up. Gas is insane. Insurance and taxes feel like sneaky thieves that take a little more each year. And yet, my paycheck stays almost the same. There's a cruel joke somewhere in the fact that I'm working more hours and more jobs than I thought possible, and still feeling poorer than ever. It's this invisible race where the finish line keeps moving farther away. Some days, I catch myself sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the numbers on my laptop, and feeling the panic start to swell inside. The math doesn't add up. There's no magic formula to make it work. The anxiety creeps in slowly at first, like a quiet hum in the back of my mind. Then it becomes this loud, relentless drum: what if I lose this job? What if my car breaks down and I can't get to work? What if the rent goes up again? What if I never save enough to stop living paycheck to paycheck? I've had to make choices I never thought I'd face so early. I postponed dental work for years because I couldn't afford the copay. I stopped eating out entirely. Even once a month feels like a luxury now. I've had to say no to friends when they want to do things, knowing I simply can't afford to go. Birthdays, holidays, even small get-togethers feel like burdens instead of celebrations because I'm counting every cent. I worry about the toll this takes on relationships, but how do I explain that I'm just surviving? The emotional weight is exhausting. There's guilt for not being able to contribute more to my family. Shame for feeling so behind when I see peers buying homes or traveling. Sometimes I feel invisible, like my struggles are nobody's problem but my own. I've caught myself snapping at people, even when they don't deserve it, because the stress is a pressure cooker inside me. Sleep doesn't come easy either. I lie awake thinking about bills, future expenses, whether I should look for another job, or if I should just give up on dreams that feel so far out of reach. I try to find little ways to cope. Cooking at home has become almost a ritual, scouring discount sections at the grocery store, learning to stretch ingredients, and finding comfort in making a decent meal on a tight budget. I've taken up running, not just for health, but to clear my mind and escape the relentless noise of worry. Sometimes, I binge-watch shows or dive into books to forget, if only for a few hours, that money is a problem I can't seem to fix. But honestly, some nights, it's hard not to feel defeated. It feels like the system is designed to keep me locked in this cycle, where expenses always outpace my efforts. The idea of getting ahead is a distant light I chase but never quite reach. I envy those who seem to have a safety net, who can make mistakes without spiraling into crisis. I wonder if I'm just not working hard enough, or if the cards were stacked against me from the start. Still, I hold on to hope. I dream of a time when I can breathe freely, not constantly count dollars or worry about what's next. I want to travel, to see places beyond the small city limits where I live. I want to afford a home that doesn't feel like a cage. I want to build a future where I'm not constantly worried about making ends meet, where I can save, invest, and plan for things beyond the next bill. But for now, those dreams have to wait. I've learned to celebrate small victories, paying off a credit card, getting a tiny raise, managing to stash away a few dollars each month. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not my whole story. But some nights, the weight of it all is so heavy that hope feels like a fragile thread, barely holding me up. If you asked me what advice I'd give to my younger self, I'd say, don't blame yourself for the system that's so hard to beat. Keep pushing, but be kind to yourself. Find joy in the small things and don't let the pressure steal your spirit. And know that even when it feels impossible, you're not alone in this struggle. I'm sharing this because I want someone else who's feeling trapped to know that these feelings are real and valid. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to be scared. But it's also okay to keep dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. Because one day, maybe, those dreams will catch up to me. And until then, I'll keep trying, one day at a time. Some days, it feels like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the surface while everything around me pulls me down deeper. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, a constant scramble just to cover the basics, a slow suffocation under bills that don't stop growing no matter how much I try to keep pace. The world tells us to chase dreams, to build a future, but here I am, caught in the grind where expenses outstrip income every single month, and hope feels like a distant, fragile thing. I'm 26 now. For the past few years, I've worked steady jobs, retail, a little office work, freelance gigs when I can get them. The paychecks come regularly, but they never quite stretch far enough. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loan payments, phone bills, transportation, every expense seems to creep up by just a little bit each month. Inflation isn't just a headline, it's the reason I have to choose between buying medicine or decent food sometimes. It's why I've stopped going to the doctor unless it's absolutely necessary, why I'm still wearing shoes that pinch because I can't justify spending $80 on a new pair. I still remember the last time I felt genuinely free with money. It was a fleeting moment, really. Maybe a year ago, I managed to save up enough to treat myself to a night out with friends. It felt so good to laugh without worrying about the cost of an Uber or the price of a meal. But that feeling evaporated fast once I got home and faced the mounting emails from credit card companies, notices from the bank, and the sinking realization that my bank account balance was dangerously low again. Every day starts with a mental checklist: what's due this week? Which bills can I delay? How much can I safely spend on groceries without pushing my budget into the red? I try to keep track meticulously, but the numbers blur after a while. Sometimes I lie awake, thinking about the expenses I can't control: rent that's gone up twice in the last year, the rising cost of gas, the unexpected repairs on my old car that I can't afford but desperately need. I feel trapped, like I'm stuck on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm not getting anywhere. It's exhausting. It's humiliating. I want to scream sometimes, but there's no one to yell at. The system that's supposed to help us live a decent life feels rigged. Wages barely budge while costs skyrocket. I see stories about people investing in real estate or starting businesses, but that world seems light years away from mine. My reality is checking my bank app nervously before every purchase, weighing whether the $5 I'd spend on a coffee could be better saved for an emergency I hope never comes. The emotional toll is heavy. I've felt a creeping sense of anxiety that never quite leaves me. It's a dull ache in my chest every time I open a bill, a tightening in my stomach when I think about unexpected costs. I've caught myself withdrawing from friends because I'm ashamed I can't keep up with social plans or contribute my share. Sometimes, the loneliness is almost as hard to bear as the money stress. I want connection, but money often dictates how much of that I can afford. Coping is a daily battle. I've developed habits that might seem small but mean the world to me. Cooking at home even when I'm tired, because eating out feels like a luxury. Walking instead of taking the bus or Uber to save a few dollars. Scouring thrift stores for clothes and essentials. I've learned to celebrate tiny victories, like getting a coupon or finding a discounted item, that most people probably take for granted. It's these little things that help me feel like I still have some control, some agency in this relentless financial storm. I journal sometimes, trying to process the frustration and fear. Writing helps me remind myself that I'm not just a paycheck or a collection of bills. I'm a person with dreams and desires, even if they've been put on hold. I used to want to travel, to see new places, meet new people, break out of the monotony. I dreamed about going back to school someday, maybe pursuing something I'm passionate about instead of the jobs that pay the bills. But those dreams feel postponed indefinitely, pushed back by the pressing demands of now. What keeps me going? I think it's the hope that this isn't my forever. I tell myself that if I can just get through this rough patch, maybe I'll find a better opportunity, a job that pays more, a way to break the cycle. I remind myself that many have been where I am and found a way forward. It's not a cure for the anxiety or the exhaustion, but it's enough to keep me putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes I fantasize about what freedom would feel like, being able to make choices without the weight of money dictating every step. Maybe I'd take a spontaneous weekend trip, or start a hobby that requires buying supplies. Maybe I'd save for a down payment on a small apartment of my own, a place where I don't have to constantly worry about rent hikes. Or maybe I'd just sleep better, knowing the bills are covered and there's a buffer for emergencies. For now, though, I live in this push and pull, between survival and hope, frustration and resilience. It's a delicate balance, and some days it's harder to maintain than others. But I try to remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, and that my dreams, no matter how delayed, are still valid. Someday, maybe sooner than I think, things will shift. Until then, I'm here, struggling but still standing, learning to navigate a world where the cost of living feels like it's designed to keep me down. This is my story, not just a story about money, but about the quiet battles many face in a world that often overlooks the human cost behind the numbers. I hope by sharing it, someone else who feels trapped will know they're not alone. And maybe, together, we can start to imagine a different kind of future, one where financial pressure doesn't dictate our lives or steal our dreams. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while the ground beneath me slips farther and farther away. I'm 26, and every day feels like a test I'm failing. The pressure isn't from any single thing, but from this relentless economic storm that I can't seem to outrun or even stand still in. It's not just about money, it's about the feeling that no matter how hard I work, nothing is enough. Not the paycheck, not the hours I put in, not the careful budgeting or the sacrifices. It's like the world is designed to push me down, and I'm stuck fighting just to keep my head above water. I work a steady job in retail management, something I took because I needed stability after college, but I'm not earning what I hoped I would. Every month, I sit down with my spreadsheets and try to make the numbers add up, but expenses keep climbing. Rent is eating up more than half of my paycheck, and utilities, groceries, transportation, they all inch upward, sometimes faster than my wages. Inflation isn't just a number on the news, it's the extra $20 for the same carton of milk, the $5 more for gas, the surprise bill that always arrives at the worst possible moment. What makes it worse is how unpredictable it feels. Some months I get a little extra from a side gig or a small bonus, and I think maybe, just maybe, I can breathe a bit easier. But then there's an unexpected car repair or medical bill, and the breathing stops again. It's this constant tension, always bracing for the next hit. I can't relax. I can't plan beyond the next few weeks without a knot in my stomach. And the emotional toll is crushing. There's a shame in admitting you're struggling when, on the surface, everything seems fine. I have a roof over my head, a job, food on the table. But that's just the baseline for survival. The dreams I had, traveling, finishing grad school, maybe buying a small apartment one day, those feel like luxuries now, things to tuck away into some dusty corner of my mind where I don't have to think about them. I tell myself they're just delayed, but the truth is, I don't know when or if they'll ever happen. My friends talk about investing, saving for retirement, or moving to bigger places. I listen, sometimes nodding, but inside I feel disconnected. I'm stuck in a loop where paying the bills is a victory in itself. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only one who feels this way, or if everyone just hides it better. The loneliness of this struggle is real. I don't want to burden anyone with my worries, so I keep it inside, wearing a mask of I'm fine, while inside I'm scrambling. I've developed little coping mechanisms, things that help me hold on. Cooking meals at home instead of eating out, cutting back on everything non-essential, even gifts or social outings. Sometimes I take long walks at night, just to clear my head and remind myself that the world outside isn't just my financial stress. I write in a journal, pouring out frustrations and fears because it's safer to face them on paper than in conversation. And I try to find moments of joy in the small things, a good book, a sunny afternoon, a call with a close friend. But the constant worry never quite leaves me. It gnaws at my confidence and makes me question everything, my choices, my worth, my future. I'm trapped in this system where expenses grow faster than income, where rising costs aren't matched by opportunities to advance. It's not just personal failure, it feels systemic, like the odds are stacked against people like me, young adults trying to carve out a life in an unforgiving economy. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming, letting my mind wander to a life without this pressure. Maybe I'm living in a small city by the ocean, working a job that pays enough to cover basics and some extras, where I can afford to take a vacation now and then, and not feel guilty about it. Maybe I'm going back to school, pursuing a passion project or a career change that excites me instead of drains me. But then reality snaps back in, and I remember that those dreams require time, money, and energy I don't have right now. Still, I hold on to hope. Not because it's easy, but because I need something to fight for. I remind myself that this isn't forever, that maybe one day I'll look back and see how this struggle shaped me, made me stronger, or led me to unexpected places. For now, I take it day by day, trying to be kind to myself in the quiet moments and finding small victories where I can. This story isn't just about money. It's about feeling trapped in a system that often doesn't feel built for people like me, about the emotional weight of that, and about the fragile hope that keeps me moving forward. I'm still here, still trying, even when it feels like everything is working against me. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.